Because I'm Batman.
Sorry. What is up, Reject Nation? Happy Monday. Hope you had a safe weekend.
I do too.
The Batman 2021 Trilogy breakdown, a new Batman villain Easter eggs. Is he working out? Who cares? This is from the channel Emergency Awesome. I don't know what this is about, but people recommend it, so yeah, let's check it out. Before that though, I did want to say, download and follow us on the Stardust at mofos. Over there, we're doing 30-second reviews for films, TV shows, and trailers. Catch it up on so much. Free to use. You can post too. Whole thing's entirely free. We're not getting paid to say this. We're just doing it. So yeah.
Join us.
Michael Guacamole is such a good composer.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Batman video. Warner Brothers just dropped a whole bunch of details. We also have news.
Did they? I didn't hear any of that.
And their future plans for the trilogy itself and some of the really big characters. So we'll break it down. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll do a new Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber.
Is this from the actual movie? It looks like it.
It sure does.
Number 5. If you didn't see the news, recently The Wrap reported that because of the overwhelming success of the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, made over $1 billion, secretly behind the scenes, DC Movies were planning to do a new, more comic book accurate version of the Bane character in his own DC Black Label movie.
It's gonna be a wrestler?
Obviously, it wouldn't be Tom Hardy's version of Bane. It'd be a completely different actor. They didn't say who was going to direct it.
It's gonna be a dude obsessed with body image.
Yeah. Dave Bautista was supposed to be in James Gunn's Suicide Squad 2 movie, but had to decline because of scheduling problems. Then later said he would love to play the new version of Bane inside Robert Pattinson's trilogy. That's why you've been seeing all that fan art of him as Bane. He definitely looks like he could pull the part off comic book Bane, even if they didn't use special effects to make him look 8 feet tall when he's tripping out on the Venom serum. If you're really gonna go for comic book accurate Bane. But apparently, since that news broke a little while ago, DC decided not to do the full-blown Bane solo movie treatment DC Black Label, mostly because there are a billion more famous Batman villains to do DC Black Label movies about, as you would expect. Why wouldn't they go with their bigger, more popular characters first? This all makes sense in a second, though, because number 4...
I'm going to pitch you guys my Scarecrow idea after this, okay?
DC isn't going to do the Bane movie also because they decided to shuffle a new version of Bane into the Robert Pattinson trilogy in one of the sequels. But just to be clear, Bane is not in the new Batman movie that's coming out next year.
What is going to be this trilogy? There's so many characters.
And even though the Joker movie made over $1 billion and changed the way you think about the Joker character, you'd think DC's first thought would be to cross him over with the Batman trilogy. The director of the Joker movie, Todd Phillips, was asked about this throughout last year during the Joker press tour, and his answer was always that he made the Joker movie with the specific intent that it was its own thing off in its own universe, and that was part of the reason why Warner Brothers let him do it rated R.
Robert Pattinson was just cast as Batman. I know this is a totally different movie, but
he's like, I'm sick of talking about this shit.
No, definitely not.
It's like, I need to get the hell out of here.
If you're taking Todd Phillips at his word, when they were filming this, he wasn't thinking to himself, this is Robert Pattinson's Batman being born right here in this moment. If you really start to pick it apart too, there are some age difference issues between Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Robert Pattinson's
We don't need to do
Batman.
this again.
The Joker should usually only be no more than 10 to 15 years older than Batman, and Joaquin Phoenix is in his 50s. Even with de-aging technology, the Joker movie was supposed to take place in the early 80s, so it's just too much of a stretch. And I'm not on board with the theory that his Joker inspired the real comic book Joker that you see fighting Batman in all the Batman comics. I still think that he is meant to be the Joker. So number 3, right now, Matt Reeves has said that he doesn't introduce a new version of the Joker during the first Batman movie, but they will do him at some point during the sequels. He will come up. He's just too big of a character to completely swerve on during this new trilogy. Most likely with another
put him in the third
and
one.
most likely after any potential Joker sequel movie. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix's most recent statements about doing a Joker sequel are more along the lines of, we're not in any rush to do it, but maybe we'll do it someday. Which means if it does happen,
Old Man Joker?
Bare minimum before we see it, probably longer. The more interesting thing, though, within Warner Brothers is their interest in replicating the success of the Joker with other solo movies for Batman villains, the big Batman villains. So number 2, there was also a recent report that Warner Brothers intended to use Robert Pattinson's new Batman trilogy to set up potential
They're
spin-offs
doing
for
the
bigger
Batverse.
villain characters. And there are some recent actor comments that corroborate this. In the first new Batman movie next year, we know we're getting the Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman, and Carmine Falcone. It should go without saying, even if you stan Carmine Falcone as a character, they're probably not going to give him a solo movie. But Colin Farrell, who's playing the Penguin, recently said that he doesn't have much to do in this first new Batman
Must be
movie,
just a great
but he
fan
does get to
edit
have
film,
a lot
huh?
of fun with his scenes.
Can we say that you're playing the Penguin in the Batman movie?
Yeah, you just did. I believe so,
yeah.
Yeah, you just did, and if we couldn't, we wouldn't have even shown
Yeah.
this.
You were Bullseye in the Daredevil movie, and I thought
Damn,
you were
he's looking
fantastic
thick.
in that.
Yeah.
I really like
My
that.
neck.
And now you're
That's a
playing
small demographic. Thank you.
this cat. No,
I'm not being facetious.
But the Penguin, it surprises me that you are the Penguin, because usually the Penguin is a short, fat person.
Yeah, but I have some time to eat, and
Well, you
I'm still in the process of talking to Matt Reeves, who's the director and who wrote the script, and wrote a really beautiful, dark, moving script, really gorgeous.
you read the whole thing already.
Yeah, with a chain and around my arm and cryogenically frozen script. It's all very hush hush, but it's a
Hush,
really
Batman, hush.
beautiful
Oh,
script.
oh,
Really
oh,
has a
Easter eggs.
Real love for it. So we're still in the process of just finishing designing the aesthetic of
Robert
the character.
Pattinson is Batman.
Robert Pattinson's Batman. Jeffrey
Paul
Wright.
Dano is the Riddler.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk
Jeffrey
about
Wright's
Jeffrey
in
Wright.
there, Zoe Kravitz.
Is Catwoman.
Yeah, really
Sure,
cool.
you look at me so annoying.
Daredevil Bullseye shout out during that interview. The other funny
love him
thing for me to
sometimes, and
remember
he always
is
do
that both
sometimes.
he now
Yeah.
and Ben Affleck wound up in the Daredevil movie and then in Batman movies. But that along
Nah,
with the
good point.
statements that he's made since then while they were actually working on the film sort of corroborate the idea that Warner Brothers is thinking about doing a DC Black Label movie at some point in the future with his Penguin character. Why would you cast someone as big as Colin Farrell and pay him all that money for such a huge event film, the Batman movies, then barely use him in any scenes?
They
Probably
kinda do
because
it all
they
the
want a lot
time.
to
Do it all the
Batman
time.
movie spin-off universe plans.
For
What would we even
clout.
call a Batman cinematic
More
universe
money.
that existed by itself, self-contained? The Batverse? I don't know. Just post your best theory about what you would call that in the comments.
The Batverse.
But it's the same deal with the Riddler, the Catwoman, Two-Face once they debut a new version of Two-Face in the Batman movies. Because, number one, there's also a new rumor that says that they're trying to get Matthew McConaughey as their new Two-Face in the Batman sequels. That doesn't mean that they're going to get him in this
really?
contract, but it gives you an idea for how big they're going.
Hey,
with their
that would
casting.
work.
Aaron Eckhart did a great job with his version of Two-Face in
I
The
got
Dark Knight.
Two-Face.
I'm
gonna have you flip
he was
coin.
mostly a supporting role to Heath Ledger's Joker
But he could
in that
play-
movie.
he could play
One
both
of the
parts.
biggest complaints too about superhero movies, both Marvel and DC all around, is that they rarely do a good job of developing all of their villain characters, especially films that have multiple villains in them. The Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix basically solved that problem. So you see all these big Batman villains show up in the new Robert Pattinson Batman trilogy, but you get the deep character study with each of them in their potential solo movies, depending on how everything works out and if things are successful. If we're talking about which order they would do those solo movies in, I'd rather see the Riddler or the
Mysterio?
Penguin
Riddler?
movie first, then do the other one, and then once they cast their new version of Two-Face, do his solo movie. Then after whatever the last Robert Pattinson Batman movie winds up being, then you do your Catwoman solo movie. Because if you didn't see it
That
recently,
fat edit
the
looks
writer
so
of the
believable in the
Batman
beginning.
movie actually confirmed that the movie is based on the Long Halloween comic book story. Maybe not
Yep.
exactly like the comic book story, but definitely inspired
never
by it.
are.
And there are a couple sequel stories to The Long Halloween. There's Batman Dark Victory, which they could use as the plot for the sequel to the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Then there's The Haunted Night, and there's also a story called Catwoman When in Rome, which takes place concurrently with one of those other stories. They could always use that as the story for the Catwoman solo movie, though. But you get the idea. Warner Brothers seems like it's trying to construct a new cinematic universe through this new Batman trilogy, which I think is kind of funny. So just to be clear, Robert Pattinson's Batman isn't meant to be connected to Justice League or be a prequel to Ben Affleck's Batman. We do have the Flash movie coming up. They're doing a version of Flashpoint. If they want to use that to connect him to Justice League, if they really do want to bring everything together for Justice League 2...
They're going to time travel and release it on its proper date.
That's right. There you go.
I think we're so far away from a
nothing ever
Justice League
happened.
sequel that it doesn't really matter. But we have the Snyder Cut coming up, but that's not meant to be a sequel to the first Justice League. It's meant to replace the original Justice League movie. I've already done a bunch of Justice League Snyder Cut videos, so I'll link those at the end of this. But that's all completely separate from what's going on with the Batman movies and Robert Pattinson. So there was some confusion about what's going on with Ben Affleck coming back to do Snyder Cut stuff. That's mostly to do additional voiceover dialogue. He's not fully coming back as Batman. But if we get any other news about what's going on with the Batman movie, of course I'll do a new video. Everyone is heading back into production in a couple months this summer, so we should start to get more news about it pretty soon. Everyone click here for that Justice League Snyder Cut teaser trailer, and click here for my new Spider-Man 3 and Venom 2 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.
Awesome. Awesome. There's plenty to talk about here. When they said Bane movie solo spinoff, I could see a version if you're gonna go for like your very realistic version, like the Venom serum thing just wouldn't work. But you know, like Dark Knight Rises had a Tom Hardy's Bane in it, and there was no Venom serum in it. You just naturally got that way, you know.
Yeah, and they repurposed that, you know, iconography for something different, so that you were able to at least keep some semblance of Venom.
Yeah.
Which you could do again in a different way.
You know, Bane's background is completely different than it is in the Dark Knight Rises. You could have some real, you know, rich stuff to explore there.
I would love to see like an actual Bane movie.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind it. The idea of Dave Bautista being Bane, that's one of those choices that is obvious, but I love it. You know, because he could really pull that off. I constantly flash to
Easter eggs.
I constantly go to his little performance that he had. Oh, we had a question on Patreon about best small performance in a film, and this could have definitely qualified.
Been a great one.
I don't know if it's the best one, but it's a great one. Dave Bautista's work in Blade Runner 2049. Like that little scene has so much gravitas, so much weight. It's like one scene that he has in the film. It's so early on, but leaves such a lasting impact.
Yeah, it really does.
You know, a lot of us associate him in terms of the film community with Drax. He could do a great Bane. He really could.
Well, yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you know he could do it. We've seen him play characters that are physically similar to that, but we haven't seen him do that flavor of performance.
Yeah.
It's like you have that Blade Runner performance, but it is more subdued, and Bane would obviously be a bit more formidable and imposing and dark.
I mean, I don't know if he'd do like an accent for Bane, but I don't think at this point we'd care. I mean, if we're looking for like the most accurate of depictions,
leave your fan cast down below.
Perhaps, yeah. But in terms of these solo villain movies, there's a part of this report that's a little bit confusing. I know that this is all rumors, but this seems like very likely to, you know, at least be heavily considered for what Warner Brothers wants to do, considering the success of Todd Phillips' Joker movie, of doing these solo villain films. There's a couple of them that I think could really, I feel like Catwoman, done properly, could be a great solo film.
That's due. That's due for a redo.
I mean, I feel like most of them, honestly, because some of them have more supernatural powers. I mean, I've thought it would have been really cool to do a Scarecrow Jonathan Crane Origins movie. Actually, I pitched the whole thing on a Movie Fights episode.
Yeah. Mine would be a psychological horror film inspired by Carrie, but I would be focusing on the character of Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow. And if you look into the Jonathan Crane's back, there's different versions, of course, but there's very much similarities to Jonathan Crane's backstory with Carrie in a lot of ways, actually. So mine would take place in the 1970s, and I would focus on Jonathan Crane in senior year of high school. He's someone who is a completely introverted type of science nerd. He gets made fun of a lot, not just for his demeanor and the way he comes across, but for the fact of how he has this unusual body features, kind of like Ichabod Crane. So he's getting bullied a lot, basically. And he also deals a lot with body shaming, which is something that I don't actually see really done with young male characters in movies a lot. I think it'd be cool to explore that, borrowing sort of that theme from Carrie as well. In my version, he'd also be a closet homosexual character who has a crush on one of the football players, one of the only characters who's actually nice to him. But the deeper rooted issues with Jonathan Crane would be that at home, his father, who is a biology scientist, his father is traumatized from being someone who wasn't able to save his wife, aka Jonathan Crane's mother, from a fire. He's working on developing a cure for fear. Borrowing from the comics, the father's developing a cure for fear. And this is doing twofold. One fold is that, similar to Carrie, where these philosophies become an abusive form, he is developing this because he thinks fear is the enemy, and also he believes that if he can have his son overcome the fear, he can finally become a man and stand up for himself.
Let's link that in the description box, the right time code when that starts, and he goes to high school with Bruce Wayne. No, I'm just
But no, but a Scarecrow movie would make a ton of sense too, because fear,
and horror too.
Yeah, horror, but also like the concept of fear is something that is intrinsic to Batman in general, and Batman is like the light side, or at least the more benevolent side of embracing and using fear constructively, whereas the Scarecrow side is destructively.
Yeah.
Get Guillermo del Toro to do it.
Yes, screw it. Just go all fantasy on this one.
Get another comedy director who wants to make the change.
Well, I was kind of confused on what they were talking about, though, in terms of, they're possibly talking about doing these DC Black labels for Penguin, Colin Farrell's. So is the idea, if I'm understanding this correctly, is the idea to put Colin Farrell in, like, the Batman movies, but then do his own spin-off movie that's in the DC Black label, which would then connect that to Joaquin Phoenix's, or like, I'm kind of confused on what they're doing here.
From everything Todd Phillips has said, I feel like at least, and it's Warner Brothers' choice, I'm sure, at the end of the day, but nothing's going to connect to Joker if they have their way, and I think that's appropriate. What I got from that is the idea that maybe they're going to feature these villains in the Batman movies and have that be like the group continuity or something like that, and then do side movies for these characters. Like, okay, we've seen a little bit of Penguin in the Batman, so let's do like a full-on Penguin movie, and then maybe make him an even bigger character in the sequel to the Batman or something. That's kind of what I thought they were getting at.
I think they should hold off on Joker for part 3.
They should hold off on Joker for a while.
The idea is a solid trilogy is what Matt Reeves has in mind. And I really think building up to get Joker in part 3 would be your best bet to get some distance and some space from Joker, but also just as fun movie trivia. Batman 89, first Batman movie in that franchise was Joker. Dark Knight, second movie in that franchise, and then you get Joker here,
first movie in that franchise.
Third movie in this franchise, and a cool way to build up to him, and maybe like allude to his presence within Gotham. Because if you have all these other people around, Joker's gotta be around, right? So at least like allude to the fact that Joker exists, but then don't actually have him till part 3. That way the Ayer cut can come out and more people could like Jared Leto's Joker. Then you could put him in this movie.
A place for him. All right. But you know, that could be cool though too, because you could build up, you could create a different dynamic for Batman, where it's like, okay, here is a movie or two where he deals with villains who have some kind of ideology, and then you cap it off with, what if you're facing somebody whose whole ideology is just to destroy ideology? You know, so I think that could be a really cool dramatic build. And also, if he aged, you know, he's gonna age with the role if they keep Robert Pattinson, and so to see him as an older Batman go up against Joker, you know, that would be pretty cool too.
Honestly, if they're planning on doing spin-offs, I feel like their best bet is, instead of introducing them in these movies, but to kind of just put them in between and then put them in the movies.
That seems like the logical
especially when you have so many of these guys in the movies. You got so many of them. That way you don't have to worry about, like, they're not really fleshed out in this movie. There's too many villains. You get away with that if you have their spin-offs in between, right? Like, that just makes sense.
It sounds maybe like that's what they might do with Penguin, because what I got out of this is that, you know, the first Batman movie is going to mainly have the Riddler be the villain, and you're going to have, you know, little moments with Penguin, so maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll tease Penguin and then go, here's the Penguin movie to really make you understand, but also hate this guy, and then in the sequel we'll make him the main one.
Two-Face with Matthew McConaughey. That would be an excellent casting choice. He could easily, like, I don't know about easily. I feel like he works really hard at his job, but he could definitely pull that off. Okay. He could play District Attorney Harvey Dent, and he could play Two-Face. He could do both, undoubtedly.
He's another one of those casting choices where I'm like, it's not the exact obvious role I've seen him do. I just know he can do it.
I mean, for the roles that he's tackled in recent years, he could do the darkness 100%. And he could do the charming mobster-like character as well. I would love to see that actually occur. Like, I hear that, I'm like, I can't get that out of my head now. I have, like, Matthew McConaughey is like perfect choice.
Dude, the gentleman meets true detective.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll be him. I'll be the character.
Whoever this fan edit footage is, that was great.
It was very convincing. Thanks to Cosmopolis for providing all those images of Robert Pattinson in a suit.
Right? All right, guys, which part of this news excites you the most? Thanks, Emergency Austin, for putting this together. Make sure to subscribe to the Homeboys channel. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click our notification bell. Download and follow us on the Stardust up. Last but not least, Andrew Hayes, my buddy, my friend. So Andrew made me a really happy camper recently. I rarely hear from this gentleman. He messaged me, hey, Greg. Or more like, hey, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
I started the show Barry on HBO. Because of you. I love it. I think he's done with the show now.
Oh, wow.
He's already fully caught up, and he
Way ahead
started
of me.
because of my heavy recommendation.
Only yours.
I mean, it was me really convincing the shit out of the guy. He came out of the woodworks in order to tell me that he watched it because of me.
You're a life changer.
So really, Andrew, I wanted to shout you out in this video to tell you how great I am at recommending shows. I hope you're being safe right now in New Jersey. I hope that with your family's lock company, you're locking as many doors as possible to protect yourselves. Be safe. You stay classy. And also, tell me how that wedding goes. Is it still on?
Have you been cast as Wolverine yet?
Thanks, John.